Hello and welcome back to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker. Well, guys, listen. I was looking at this Facebook video and it got me hot. There was a young lady on there that said, you know what? You MJ fans, you let Katherine Jackson off the hook because she knew about the abuse. She knew what was going on and she stayed. Why is it that she only left when she found that Joe was cheating on her? This is not the first time I've heard one woman blame another woman for abuse. There was another time when I was in a book club and this lady who happened to be from another country was like, well, you know what? There are so many resources out here that no woman should stay in a marriage like that. If they do, then it's their fault. Guys, listen, I totally disagree with that statement, okay? And I was going to go off, but I said no. Come back and speak calmly, make your own little video so that you can put things into perspective, because I think a lot of people overlook a lot of things when they're placing judgment on other people. All right. So first and foremost, let's get it out the way. Katherine Jackson is a black woman. Period. A black woman. Born in the 1930s. Okay. Having 9 children from the 1950s all the way to the 1960s. All right. We gotta keep all of that in check. We have to. Why? Because back then, there were no laws against job discrimination. As a matter of fact, many jobs wouldn't hire you if you were a woman. Many jobs wouldn't hire you if you were black. Okay? And she was both. So she was not going to be open to as many opportunities as we have right now. The reason why we got the opportunities that we have is because of 2 things: the civil rights movement and the women's movement, which didn't happen until when? The late 1950s was the civil rights movement. That's when that began. And the women's movement began in the 1960s. Katherine was born in the 1930s. Dates matter. Okay? Dates matter. And guess what, guys? Guess what? The minimum wage back then was 50 cents. How is 50 cents going to take care of 9 kids? You tell me. Because I can't see it. All right? We got to keep that in mind. All right? The other thing, too, there was no domestic violence shelters back then. Now, I know you might say, well, you know, Katherine really wasn't a victim of domestic violence because Joe didn't lay his hands on her. Well, if you read some of the Jackson books, you will find that he did hit her once. And she let him have it, and he never hit her again. Kudos to Miss Katherine Jackson at 96 years old. God bless her. God bless her. But see, even though he didn't hit her, there's other ways to abuse a person, and that's through finances. And in many ways, one can't even say that he really purposely financially abused her, because that's the way families were back then, where the man controlled the money. Okay? But let me just go back for a second. Go back to the whole, stick a pin in that. I want to go back to the whole domestic violence situation. Okay? Because you can leave your husband if you if you are being financially abused, and you can go into a domestic shelter. Here's the point. There were no domestic violence shelters back then, like I mentioned, not in the 1950s, and there were no laws against it. Okay? Even today, right? There's not shelters in every single city in the United States of America. A lot of towns, remember we got towns, we got suburbs, many of them don't have any at all either. So when a person finds themselves in trouble, and listen, domestic violence is not only women, men too. Men are being abused financially as well. Many times you have to go several cities over before you can even find a place to stay. Real talk. Okay. Then they're going to limit how many kids you can bring into that shelter. She had 9 kids. There's not too many shelters that would have accepted her. And then listen, in big cities like New York City and I believe Chicago also, that's one of the reasons why shelters get full. And sometimes they got to send people over to a hotel because they don't really like to break up families. Now, in her case, because there were none back then, we all know that there was a time when she did go back to her parents' home. Listen, you know that that's very uncomfortable. If just you by yourself is uncomfortable. But you and 9 kids, oh, that's real uncomfortable. That can be really, really a real strain on a family, you know? So this is something that you guys really got to keep in mind. As a matter of fact, for those of you who are interested in real estate, independent living facilities is a real thing. People are making money on that. And typically what they do is they normally don't put families in an apartment. Well, when it's large like this, they do. But they typically put them in like co-living spaces. You do normally have to get a license or know somebody who has a license in order to start something like that up. I know that there are people out there that's saying, oh, you can just do this and do the co-living thing. No, do it right. Each state is different. Each city is different. Find out how to do it so that this way your city and state can accommodate people who are in trouble. And yes, in today's world, the government does pay a part of it. You can probably also team up with a charity that already has that license, right? And you could rent the house out or the apartment or apartments with an S if it's an apartment building. You can rent that out to the charity, such as Women in Need, who would use that building for these women. Okay, that's just a suggestion that I'm throwing out there. All right. So anyway, moving right along. Here's the other thing too that many women don't take into account. Back then, women weren't allowed to have a bank account. As a matter of fact, it wasn't until much later that a woman could get a bank account as long as her husband was there to open it up for her. It wasn't until 1974, I believe, when single women could actually have their own bank account. But you couldn't just walk into a bank and have it. So if she's around from the 1930s, 1950s, she's working. How's she going to get the money? Making 50 cents an hour. That was the minimum wage back then. And that 50 cents to, what is it, $1.75 is what many African American, Caribbean American people made back then in America. What she want to do with 9 kids with that? Somebody explain that to me and make me understand that one. Okay? Definitely. So, listen, the way it worked back then, Joe controlled all of the finances. He was making the money when he was working at the steel mill. But even after the kids got famous and everything else like that, he was the one that was collecting those checks. He was the one that was taking the money. He was the one spending the money. He was the one writing the checks. He was the one doing the business decisions. He was the one buying the houses. It was not Katherine. Okay? Now, the other thing, too, is that people are like, you know, she was aware of the abuse. You know, I'm not sure if she was aware of the abuse until these movies came out. The reason why I say that is because Katherine was not always on the road with them. Katherine was at home raising the 3 girls. She didn't see everything, and the boys probably didn't tell her everything. And even when they told her, she probably didn't believe it. You know, a lot of times we used to say, seeing is believing. Sometimes people say things to you and you're like, oh, they're exaggerating. And then when you really see it, then you be like, oh my God, what? Yeah, that's what I think. I know she knew about a little bit of it, but I don't think she knew the severity until they made those movies on the TV before they made the movie Michael in the theater. That's what I believe. Okay? But Joe was controlling everything. And then there were also certain norms back then that don't exist anymore now. See, back then, divorce was looked down upon. And remember, she's a devout Jehovah's Witness. She didn't want to really go up and buck up against the system of religion or of her religion that she believes in. And back then, you stayed married. You didn't get divorced. You worked everything out. It wasn't a choice. Now, I did find out that I do know that she did file for divorce, I believe more than once back in the day, but I don't remember, you know, what happened with that, but it never really went through. He somehow found his way back in with and made it in with her. And I think it had to do, honestly, with the money, with the finances. I believe she loved him also, but I really think that money had a lot to do with her letting him back in. Okay? And see what many people, I'm going to call it what it is. I'm going to call it what it is, and some of you might not like it. But all of this, his total control of all of the money like that, that's financial abuse, guys. So you see, Katherine, she was actually a victim. She was a victim more so of the system than anything else. The system that allowed her husband to do this. She was a victim of the system that discriminated against her because of who and what she was. Because, guys, remember, Katherine wanted to be a country singer. She's the reason why they learned how to harmonize. But back then, they really wasn't letting black people do country. Not like that. Today is different. That's what I mean by there's way more opportunity now. Now there's a couple of black country singers that I'm seeing. I don't really know them too good by name because that's not really, you know, my cup of tea so much. But this is one of the things that I mean. And even myself, because I'm in my 50s, we as women, we're doing things that when I was born, we weren't allowed to do. And I think that the younger generation, and also definitely people who immigrate to America, you guys don't know the history well. And you need to learn it before you cast judgment on somebody. And you're dead wrong for saying the things that you say about Miss Katherine Jackson. And I'm not having it. That's why I'm making this video, to put you guys on point and alert, so that you guys know that people fought, people walked the streets, people protested, people got arrested, women, minorities, especially black people, fought, literally fought to have rights, to have the right to not just to sit at a counter to eat food, fought for the right to have jobs, any job, and still fighting to this day, fighting within the system. That's what a lot of people are doing, and now some people are saying, you know what, screw the system. I'm going to own my own company, start my own little something on the side. And some people just don't want to side at hustle. They want a completely different company. People are fighting, you may not know it, but they are. They're fighting to change the thoughts of others who say they can't make it or they're not good enough to make it. Okay. Katherine Jackson, unfortunately, she's a victim through and through, just like her kids were. And that's why she wasn't able to pick up all 9 and just go. As a matter of fact, I really don't know of anybody. Please, if you do, drop down in the comment section and let me know who was able to pick up 9 or more kids, leave the husband, and just go and start life anew. Not in today's world, because in today's world they have a little bit of a leg up. Still hard, but they have something. I'm talking about back in the 1950s and the 1970s. I want to know. Okay? All right, guys. So anyway, I hope the information that I shared with you will give you a new perspective, and that I shed light on some factors that you guys overlooked, that you don't realize. This is a very racist, a very sexist country. It has been for a very long time. It's not as racist and as sexist as it used to be, but it is. All right? Okay, so share this amongst your friends. Click that like button. Write something in the comment section, as I mentioned before. Until next time, have a good night.